Sis to sis. Hi guys. We're gonna just go straight into our next topic. It's gonna be in two parts. It's called to walk away or to stay, as we're really aware that over this whole COVID period, there's been a lot of relationship reflection, relationship breakdowns, people coming together, a lot of things based around men and women's relationships, and that of the family. So to walk away or to stay is going to be in two parts. The first part covering what is a no-no, like what is your final boundaries, then your limitations, vows, how many chances does a person get, and thirdly, to know your worth. So that's all going to be covered in part one, which is what we're recording today. And then in part two, we're going to be talking about taking responsibility for your own emotional healing, and your past and who you are, and then embracing the light and dark parts of yourselves. And then how to move forward, covering things like cleansing ceremonies and all the things that will help you take the next steps into your future if for any reason you have had to move on or put closure to a relationship you may have been in, regardless of the amount of time. So we're going to start with part one.
Yes.
The first is, what is a no-no? So what are you really not willing to put up with in your relationships? What would be the final straw to kind of make you say enough is enough? So I kind of think an obvious one, which is actually quite a hard one to walk away from, is domestic violence.
Yes.
So if things are really not good, but you can work things out or you can talk to your partner, having good communication, that's fair enough. But if a person begins to put their hands on you or becomes verbally, physically
or
violent,
emotionally abusive,
emotionally abusive towards you, any children you may have in the home, I think that's a point where the reasoning is the element of reasoning is actually just eliminated from those actions.
Because I think a lot of times, for the sake of saving face, I think there's many people who sort of say, well, I have to stay for the sake of the children. That's kind of a great excuse, but on a bigger scale, what example are the children seeing? Are young girls seeing that it's okay to be with a male like that? And are male children seeing an example of, well, is that acceptable for a man to do? So I think sometimes the reasoning of I need to stay for the sake of the children, actually, if you were to just take a moment and look at it through your children's eyes, try to remember maybe what you lived through as a child or what your friends may have told you about, and the fact that it still may actually have an impact on them in adulthood, and then say to yourself, am I staying in this for the children, or am I really staying in it for myself?
Yeah, I think we've spoken a lot in previous shows about trauma, and one of the main elements of trauma is actually witnessing domestic violence. I've kind of seen through the work I do, children who are affected by DV cases, and how the whole family is affected, and how hard it can be to come back from it. And I know, like, the advice I had from my mother-in-law, and even though she loved her son, she said to me, you know, the first or one time a man ever puts his hand on you, don't accept it, because once they do it once, they'll do it again. And as harsh as I thought that sounded, and people deserve a second chance, I think people who inflict, whether it's male on female or female on male, domestic violence, they need support and they need help to be able to overcome that, because it's something so deep rooted that is allowing that person to make the other person, their mate, the person they're supposed to love, feel so bad and actually inflict pain on that person. And some people do it in front of their children as well, which, if there comes a point where you can't even see the children in front of you and think enough is enough, stop. There's so much,
like if you see your children, not that it's acceptable in any form or at any level, but like you said, maybe seeing your children or hearing your children should actually stop you in your tracks. And if you've gone beyond that point of the innocence of your children in the home, being able to hear or see you, because children will still hear you behind closed doors.
And they still sense things going on,
exactly,
whether they
in
see
the
it
atmosphere,
or not.
it's
But to
energy.
actually physically
Yeah.
witness.
And your children should never have to see that. And yes, as you said, sometimes it's going back what happened in your upbringing or childhood that either you saw as an example that you kind of now lash out, or you think that that's the way you do it, or what is triggering it.
Something's broken.
Yes.
Something's definitely broken within your emotional ability to communicate what you want and what you need. And
In a
sometimes
healthy
it's
way.
a fear of losing the person.
Yeah.
But in your fear of losing the person and not taking full control of that, you're actually going to push that person away.
Yeah.
And I would never say to a person it's worth working through if domestic violence is involved. I think men who suffer domestic violence, it takes a long time, and they might fear walking away from a relationship because of fear of not seeing their children, but it's not healthy for your children to see you in that.
And I
that
think
way.
if a man or woman is willing to do some kind of therapy, work through it, anger management, no matter what kind of level of therapy it is, if you're willing to seek help, then anything that is broken can always be fixed or mended. But if you are not willing to do anything about it, then yes, advisably, we would never tell anybody as their partner to stay in that situation.
Because that person actually needs to do that by themselves. It's
Yeah.
not something you can help the person get through. You
Yes.
can be there waiting and supporting, but they actually need to go away and do that self-work and get to a place where they understand why they're doing it, and then they can stop it. So I think that's a definite no-no to stay and try and work through in it. I don't see that it gets better. It needs to get kind of worse, and you need to be separate in order to understand, one, what you're accepting, and two, what you're inflicting. And there is help out there. There are helplines. I know that TFL are providing free transportation for women and men who are victims of domestic violence to flee if they need to go away to members of the family who are not, within their local vicinity. So there is help. There are helplines. Seek help if you need to. The longer you leave it, the worse it gets. The longer you leave it, the more impact it's going to have on your family. So trying to save your family through that is actually going to hinder your family in the long run. So that's one I'd say is a definite no-no.
And I think that leads into the next one, because a lot of time infidelity also kind of comes with some sort of level of DV. Not always, but there's a lot of times where a partner will sort of inflict a level of emotional abuse or physical abuse to kind of have an excuse to go out, to then go and be with somebody else. I think infidelity is probably another no-no. Yes, people make mistakes, but if it's continuous and you are putting your partner at risk, sexually, sort of health-wise, there comes a point when you have to say to yourself... Because that
borders respect, doesn't it? Because if fair enough, people do have affairs, so to speak, and then you can kind of work through those things. If the person is remorseful or regretful, or they realise they want to be in a relationship with you, then fair enough, you can maybe work through that. But there's a lot that has to go on before that is even healed, or you can trust again. But it's that lack of respect for your body and the person who you're in an intimate relationship with, because you are sharing souls for one with the other person, whether you believe that or not. That's what happens in sexual relationships.
It's a sacred energy exchange. It's not just a physical act.
So you bring that soul back to your
and whoever that person has been with. So if that person doesn't know, as you said, to sort of cleanse your aura and sort of cleanse your spirit, if that person has been with some unsavoury characters, whether violence or abuse or anything, those soul ties are then coming back with your partner to you in your home.
That whole sort of intimacy which we hold so sacred, that's all just diminished really from those acts. And as you said, if it's a one-time thing or it happens a few times but through over a number of years, that can sort of be worked out, because we're human and things happen and temptation is there. But if it's a continuous thing, it doesn't even matter who the other person is. It's just the need for you to feel validated by other people.
If you've had this and it's come up in your relationship and the person has told you how it affects them, how it hurts them, how it makes them feel and everything, and then you go and do it again, it's almost like, I actually don't care about how you feel, I don't care about what you said, the impact it's had on you, it's just me, this is how I feel, this is what I want to get out of it.
Because
a blatant disregard for the partner.
I've had this conversation with Charlie, we've had it many times off air, to say that it's one thing to feel temptation and the urge, because that's kind of, you know, monogamy, I don't feel is completely a human thing. But we live in this society, we're trying to do, you know, Rose family, so we have to talk about it. If you as a male or female feel like you need multiple partners within your lifetime, you have to have the discussion with the person who you've committed to, and you
lay your cards on the table and give them enough respect to make an informed decision. Is this the kind of situation, relationship I actually want to be in, or no, this isn't what I want to be in? But as adults, consenting adults, yes, put your cards on the table. If, as you said, if I want multiple partners or whatever, this is what I'm about.
Some people have actually opted for polygamy, you know, in their lives, and they've discussed it, and it's something that they're quite open and honest about, and it's something that actually has to have 3 or 4 people really involved and committed to it. It's not just it's the random act that's disrespectful.
Yeah, definitely.
The random and the lying and the deceit that goes with creeping, as opposed to a need that you might have. And I think that's the thing, that's the deciding factor whether to stay or whether to go. Is, are you having this urge and temptation and you're talking about it with your significant other, or are you going behind their back and lying? Because I think things can be worked out, lots of things can be worked out in relationships, but the lying, the deception is something that once that trust is broken completely, can you go over that, you know?
I don't know. That's the $1 million question. I think for anybody that's ever been in that situation, once the trust is broken, can you ever fully trust the person again? I think there's a level of maybe being able to work through certain situations, but it will be the new thereafter. There'll never be what it was before, because
definitely, I think once that's happened, there's definitely a line that's drawn. There's definitely a place you never want to go back to. You never want to be that person who, you know, your partner goes out and you feel other people know, or you're checking, you know, you don't want to be the person checking phones. You want to know. So I think it's an individual thing. You have to know, okay, what am I never going to accept?
And some people would see it as a weakness. Oh, you take back a partner that does this. Actually, it would take great strength for somebody to be able to stay and work through somebody who's actually broken their trust. Because I don't think I personally could. That's my honest opinion. I'm not saying for everybody, every situation's different. I just don't think I personally would be able to fully be at ease.
I don't think you fully be at ease. I think it takes a long time, and it takes a lot of reassurance, and you have to weigh up what it is you're trying to save. If you had a really good relationship, for example, and you do trust each other, you do value each other, you do respect each other, and your relationship is good, and then something happens and the trust is broken, you have to weigh up whether you think that is worth salvaging. But you have to know your limit. Because you have to think, if I see certain things happening again, that's it. Or, you know, you make it clear to that person that, okay, we're going to work at things, but if that was to ever happen again, like, how many chances do you give someone, for example?
Like, as you said, weighing it up, I'm sure that there are times in people's relationships where it isn't as happy or as glorious as it once was. They've stopped sort of doing date nights, they've stopped watering it, nurturing it, whatever. The intimacy, the sort of desiring of one another isn't there anymore. So you can see sometimes, not excusing the acts, but sometimes where people would then go and
the grass is always greener.
There's things that they're not sort of getting, which actually discussions should have been had or should be had, so you can kind of get back to that place. But you can see where, as you said, weighing it up, if everything was glorious and happy and the person still does that, you'll have to question, so I'm giving all of this, but there was still something that pulled them out there, so how much more can you do? Whereas if something was going bad, or whether it's health reasons, whether it's just, you know, like the intimacy is now gone down, you can see where you can say, okay, well, we were both sort of to blame, or we can work on this and
I think
weigh it up.
communication is the key to that, because I think no matter how bad things are or how good things are, if you can communicate exactly how you're feeling, maybe you yourself are suffering from grief or something financial's happening to you, you may be losing your business, you feel less than yourself, so you look for validation elsewhere. Now, if you were able to have that conversation and be friends with your partner, if you're friends with them, you don't really want to do that. And if you do, you kind of think, I'm going to tell them that this is how I feel, even the headspace I'm in, as messy as it's going to sound, as much as my words might hurt them, it's better than the going behind their back.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that things can be reconciled. It depended on how that person acted, and if they give you the information that you really want to know. I think when there's been a betrayal, you really want to ask questions, and if that person volunteers that information to you, you feel like, okay, then I get a better picture of where their headspace was, and to maybe prevent
as opposed to it happened because it happened sort of thing.
Because then it's going to happen again.
Exactly, because what triggered you, what led you to do that? Was it a want, was it a need? What made you just do this?
You need
answers. Understanding, whereas I know some people they'll be like, oh, I don't want to know, but actually a bigger picture helps you, as you said, see the details, see the pull-in, see what happened, can it be worked through, or actually we can't work through this, but in the future, if we move on, this is what I know for my future relationships.
And don't take it into another relationship if you have been hurt or betrayed, because each person's different, and you have to treat individuals as they come to you.
Do not punish somebody else for what somebody else in the past has done to you. Deal with it as a clean slate. You learn life's lessons, but you do most definitely not punish the new person or the new relationship or situation that you go into. It's not fair on that person.
No. So like, I know people have always said, like, when you get married and you make vows, you're more committed than if you don't, if you're like common law living. What are your views on that?
I don't think that's necessarily true, because the divorce rate, I think, in America is quite high. For a lot of people, I think it's a cultural thing, or it's the societal thing. You get married, you don't want the stigma of not being married and having children. But actually, like you said a little while ago, if you are friends with your partner, if you have a deep understanding for one another, each other's love language and each other's love styles, why do you love the way you love? What background and childhood are you coming from? The thing in relationships is, if two people are willing to heal, you will grow together. If only one person is willing to heal, you'll grow apart.
Yeah, definitely, that's definitely
valid.
Yeah. I do think that. I think maybe being legally married gives you more rights as a parent, maybe, and to possessions, but I don't think the emotional state changes. A lot of people would disagree with me, because a lot of people might see marriage as more sacred, but you might hold on to it because there's a bind, but that doesn't mean within your house and how you're living day to day is any different. I think it just makes it harder to then move on, because then you are tied. But as I said to you, it kind of can protect what you've built into relationship with someone, i.e. the children, i.e. the home. It gives both partners more of a legal standing, I guess, more than anything. But I know a lot of people say marriage makes men more, or women more committed to work harder at it. I don't really know if that's the case, because I think if you fall out of love with someone, or trust is completely broken down, whether you've been to register office in a church, wherever, a mosque, wherever, to do your vows, I don't think it really has that impact.
I think it's an individual thing. I think, as again, the people in this relationship have to be committed to wanting this relationship. You can either be married or not married, but if the person isn't committed to making this work, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
If two people are committed to it, they are watering it, they are nurturing it, they are healing together, they are growing together, that is the foundation, i.e. growth, flourish, is what the relationship would do. So whether you have a piece of paper that legalises it, or you are in a relationship for 20, 30 years with the same person, it's what you're feeling inside, and it's what you are putting into that relationship.
I guess, Charlie actually said the USA divorce rate is higher, but I would actually question whether that is because, one, there's more people, but two, I wonder if less people in the UK actually tie the knot, like if that's a factor in the figures, because I don't think as many couples actually make it down the aisle, so to speak, in the UK. I think a lot of more people are quite comfortable with, you know, a common law type of relationship. And you know, that has its pros and its cons. I think it depends on how sacred you value marriage and what marriage means to you, and if that's a lifelong commitment. On, as I said to you, there's certain no-nos anyway, whether you think marriage is sacred and never to be broken and you're going to be with the same person for the rest of your life. I think there's still boundaries and limitations within that. You can't, you know, stay with someone who totally destroys your mind, body and soul. So, you know, thank you for having this discussion.
You're welcome. Thank you too.
It's enlightening because, as I said, we've both been with long-term partners and we've had our own personal issues within our relationships, and it's good to just be able to talk about them. I hope you will comment below. I hope if you need support, you can reach out to us and we can point you in the right direction. If through this time you're finding the person you're living with a struggle, be it male or female or male, you can talk to someone. You need to reach out and talk things through if you can't talk to your partner. And we're going to be back with part 2. And we'll be discussing more of, if things do break down, how do you take responsibility for that, and how do you heal, and how can you move forward, you know, without getting yourself into a rut. So from Sis to Sis, part 1 of To Stay or To Walk Away. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.